People in Brooklyn are still Dodger haters.
I know.
Because the Brooklyn Dodgers moved to LA.
Are the Orlando Dreamers really realistic here?
Well, there definitely will not be expansion into Orlando.
How come there is pressure then on Sternberg and there was never that same pressure on A's owner John Fisher?
There isn't pressure on Sternberg.
Is there any possible way that behind the scenes with the A's, it's all sorted out?
The problem you have in Vegas is a few things they haven't come clean on. If you're going to do it on budget and on time, you can't pay for the extra shift. It doesn't work that way. Groundbreaking is not an actual day on the construction timeline. It's a day on the PR timeline.
Are we going to actually have baseball games that don't get played following 26?
The big cable revenue that was coming in through regional sports networks, it dried up like you're in the desert.
Here's Brody Brazil.
Hey, David, I've been watching your stuff for a very long time. It almost feels weird that I actually get to chat with you right now. We get to talk back and forth, so thanks for doing this.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It is a very interesting thing that we do for a living. And so many fans, the new thing for me is sports business and financing of teams, of stadiums. It's become such a huge part of the media landscape now. And I'm happy to be here to talk about anything you want and to just be a part of trying to inform and educate people and make things a little less mysterious.
Well, there's no shortage of conversation in baseball. Let's start there. And I'm looking across the different teams here between the Rays and the White Sox and the Royals and the Angels and the as you call them, the Athletics. There's so much instability in team stadium situations or city locations. Is it almost at this point like the threat of relocation is part of an ownership's playbook in Major League Baseball?
Well, that's for sure, but I'm afraid that you're suffering from serious recency bias. So go back a little bit. Do you know before Tampa got to be the Tampa Rays, they were the darling of relocation threats.
Right.
San Francisco Giants played in Candlestick Park. It was a nightmare. And they said, hey, we'll move to Tampa, build us a ballpark, find a way. The Chicago White Sox, before they got the rate, hey, we'll move to Tampa. So Tampa was used, then they got a team, so then you start using another city, Vegas. Vegas is a good idea. We can threaten relocation to Vegas. So that's been part of the playbook for decades. By the way, people in Brooklyn are still Dodger haters.
I know.
Because the Brooklyn Dodgers moved to LA. So I don't believe that any of this is new. What is interesting to me is that stadiums are always being considered. The first new stadium, I go back to Camden Yards. Used to be the belle of the ball, and now it's got to be renovated, and it's old already. But there's cycles of new stadiums, and we're always somewhere in that cycle, and today's no different.
Yeah, everybody needs a ballpark village these days. And to your point, too, it was all about relocation back in the day. The Giants, the White Sox, you mentioned, Seattle was in the mix for Tampa. But then we went through the contraction phase, right? Minnesota and Montreal, they were out of Major League Baseball. They were voted out. But now we're back into the relocation strategy. Go ahead.
I was running the Expos. I just got into baseball. The first owners meeting I'm ever at. And the vote was to contract Montreal and Minnesota. It was, hi, I'm David Samson. Oh, we're going to contract you. I said, hold on a second here. What are we talking about? Because we just got here. We don't want to be contracted. And obviously that was part of a collective bargaining negotiation, and it did not happen. And ironically, people forget this little nugget. The richest owner when I got into baseball, not Steve Cohn, not George Steinbrenner. Steve Cohn wasn't in the game. Not George Steinbrenner, not the Wilpons. The richest owner was Carl Pohlad.
Of the Twins.
Owner of the Twins that were going to be contracted because they didn't have a ballpark and they were playing at the Metrodome. So it's funny how baseball works.
Good history lesson there. When Rob Manfred comes out to say that he believes Tampa is a viable market, he's going to try and keep the Rays in the Tampa Bay region. How ironclad should that promise be? If it really is a promise to that area, what should fans down there actually believe in what he says?
Is that in writing? Is that some sort of enforceable contract in a court of law?
Somebody might have printed it, but no, I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. It's what he said the same thing about Oakland.
I remember.
As you recall.
Yep.
So that is page 7 of the commissioner playbook is you say, hey, a bird in the bush, we're happy here. You're going to miss us if we leave. Don't become the city of Seattle with the Supersonics where they go and then you have to pay more to get them back, because it's always true. You pay more to get something back. It's way easier to keep a customer than to get a new customer. And so commissioners really try to get that point of view embedded into the politicians in order to extract public financing.
I'll lean on your Florida expertise here. Are the Orlando Dreamers like really realistic here, or is this only because of the instability with the Rays? How do you see their chances, whether through expansion or whether through poaching the Rays?
Well, there definitely will not be expansion into Orlando. You will not see 3 teams in Florida. Some would argue there should be roughly 0 teams in Florida because of the way it goes down there. And it's something that Bud Selig was really emotional about. He wanted teams in Florida. He thought it would work very well in Miami and Tampa. It's one of his great disappointments. If you ask him, and he's got truth serum in him, he would say that, the performance of the Florida markets has been bad. And having been there for as many years as I was, I can tell you, I was fooled also. I thought it would be good, but there's not a huge corporate base, and all of the wealthy people are gone during the summer because why would you want to spend a summer in Florida if you've got money? So it looks like great demographics for tax purposes. It looks like great number of people living there, but it turns out not to be the case. But there wouldn't be a team in Orlando and Tampa, but Tampa will use Orlando as a way to get financing in Tampa. That's for sure. There is a possibility that they could relocate to Orlando, and I think that's the more likely possibility than anywhere else, because Rob doesn't want to waste another expansion city.
Right.
He already wasted Vegas. He does not want to waste another.
So if there is pressure on Stuart Sternberg to sell the Rays, like if what was reported a couple months ago is actually true and baseball's, kind of saying, hey, you got to figure out something. You just backed out of your own stadium deal. How come there is pressure then on Sternberg and there was never that same pressure on A's owner John Fisher?
There isn't pressure on Sternberg. So I know that's written about a lot, but within the ownership ranks, the people who are pressured to sell are the racists, are the bigots, are the ones who have major front office sexual harassment issues. And obviously, I'm talking about, the Donald Sterling, Bob Sarvers, Marge Schatz of the world.
Right.
That's where pressure comes to bear to sell your team. Daniel Snyder, pressure to sell. Obviously, they would like and need the Tampa situation to be dealt with and the Oakland situation to be dealt with, but they're not in the business of pressuring owners to sell. Why? Because in order to pressure someone to sell, it's the owners pressuring a fellow owner. They don't like doing that because they say to themselves, if I pressure him to sell, maybe tomorrow they'll pressure me to sell.
Right.
I don't want that to happen.
Right.
So therefore, I'm not going to do it.
And also maybe market value of the selling pressured team goes down, and then everybody's market value, I guess, goes down via comp. I want to switch gears and talk about the A's ballpark project in Las Vegas. And since you've been through building a ballpark before in Miami, I want to try and dig through this. Is there any possible way that behind the scenes with the A's, it's all sorted out? The T's are crossed, the I's are dotted, the money's there, and it just looks messy and unbuttoned from the outside? Is there any way that we're just not seeing what's actually complete on the inside?
Boy, that would be straight incompetence, because it's supposed to be the other way.
Right.
Where it's supposed to be that you want the public facing everything to be neat and have it look like you know what you're doing.
Right.
And then behind the scenes, it's an abject disaster. That would be more common. The problem you have in Vegas is a few things they haven't come clean on. Number one, I do not see and understand their path to building a ballpark on 9 acres. I just don't understand it, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. Number two, their revenue assumptions. They're not going to come clean and tell you they're unreasonable because baseball doesn't want them to do it. We thought our revenue numbers were reasonable in Miami, coming from Pro Player to New Marlins Park, and we were so wrong. But it's been over 10 years since then, and baseball is smarter about this. They have to approve financial projections, and deep down, they likely know that there could be a problem in Vegas with a team over the summer. Thirdly, the construction timeline. Mm-hmm. You can build a ballpark on time. You can add a third 8-hour shift. You can add days to the week. I mean, you can't go past 7, but you can go 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and get a ballpark built in 31 months. No question about it. But if you're going to do it on budget and on time, you can't pay for the extra shift. It doesn't work that way. And you've got to lock in your subcontractors to a guaranteed maximum price for various things, from steel to the preformed concrete to prefabricated concrete to all to doorknobs. I mean, things as crazy as the electricians who are putting the outlets on the wall. You've got to get all that done. Is it done? That would be part of public documents that I just haven't seen, but they may exist or they may be in the process of existing, but we're going to wait to see, and it's going to be soon. Oh, sorry, one more thing. The groundbreaking.
Yeah. Oh,
Can't wait for that. Totally performative. You get there. I did it. I've got my groundbreaking shovel over my right shoulder. You get a shovel, you do inscriptions, you get politicians, you take photos, you put in a home plate where home plate's going to be, and you think everything's great. And then the cameras turn off. You dig back out the home plate. You figure out what's happening. Groundbreaking is not an actual day on the construction timeline. It's a day on the PR timeline.
Yeah, that's well said. You bring up construction cost, labor. I'll throw in tariffs as a potential thing to deal with here. And neither you nor I have ever developed a hotel property, I think. But if the Wynn Hotel on the Las Vegas Strip, if they are punting on a $375 million project to renovate the Encore Tower, which is actually happening right now. They just said now's not the right time to be doing this. If a hotel operator is punting on a $375 project, why would a baseball team move forward on maybe a close to $2 billion project under the same circumstances?
It's incredibly risky, but you have to keep going. And the thing is, the baseball team, that's their whole business.
Right.
Wynn has an entire business where they cannot do something for a period of time, and it doesn't really change the fundamentals of what they're doing. The Oakland A's, wow.
Yeah, you did
the
it.
Sacramento Aths,
you did
however you want to call them, they need a place to play, and they can't stay in Sacramento at the AAA ballpark. The union won't allow it. They can't go back to the Coliseum in Oakland. They got to build something, because the rule is if you don't have a place to play, they can take away your franchise. That's the agreement you sign with the other owners when you buy a team. And so John Fisher needs a place to play, so he's got to build something, and, risks be damned. But I'll tell you, it is certainly a risk, which is why you're having a hard time finding investors.
And everybody should really study up on the Arizona Coyotes situation. I mean, you can't really cross a bridge that's not fully built out yet to who knows where, and the league obviously had a problem with that in the NHL. We'll see what happens with baseball. Meanwhile, in Sacramento, is it your opinion that they're actually getting a full-scale audition to be a big league city one day, or was all of that now a facade? We talked about the buildup of what it might look like. Now that we've seen it for almost half a season, what's actually happening in Sacramento for Sacramentans?
Well, they're getting professional baseball, and so they get to watch that. But no, there's no such thing as an audition. The way that it works when you're finding an expansion market is you're looking at the underlying fundamentals of what the team would look like.
Yeah.
Meaning, what does the stadium deal look like? What does a local TV deal look like? What is the corporate base? How are they supporting a team, naming rights, et cetera? Because you're calculating how much your outfield wall sign will cost. You're calculating how much seats will cost behind the plate. And then you're calculating the number of seats times the number of games. And then you get gate revenue that you plug into your projections. So the audition of playing in a AAA park, so Sacramento people from Sacramento. Oh my Lord.
Sacramentans, but yeah, I got you.
Sacramentans, thank you. When Sacramentans, geez. Yeah, we don't edit nothing personal, so I would just blow right through it, and I'd start in with 4869. Sacramentans are not on display here in terms of whether or not that's a major league city at all. It's really not about that. It's about making sure that Oakland had somewhere to be when they didn't have the ability to stay in Oakland.
I'm looking at the business of baseball, and it seems like television money is drying up, whether it's the ESPN deal and they're backing out of the final 3 years of that contract starting next year, or even the regional sports network situation. It's definitely not what it used to be 3, 5, 7, 10 years ago. Like, is this money part and that revenue part, isn't this a really big deal that not a lot of people are talking about enough yet?
Boy, I spend hours,
I know you do.
weeks, months, years talking about this. Players have to realize that revenue needs to be replaced because the big cable revenue that was coming in through regional sports networks, it dried up like you're in the desert. And so what's happening is baseball is trying to figure out what's the best move. And what they've indicated is they want a more national type product. They want more national deals, like the NBA has, like the NFL has. So here's the scale. NFL, totally national. NBA had a bunch of national deals, but there were still local regional sports network deals. And their most recent over $11 billion deals where TNT is gone,
right,
and now it's NBC back, and now it's
Amazon,
Disney, etc. What they did is they made more national windows in order to get more value. And that upset Jimmy Dolan, the owner of the Knicks, who owns a regional sports network, because the Knicks lose because there's not as many games available for local people. They're all available for national people. But that's the future. That's reality. And baseball's heading that direction. And this whole ESPN thing, MLB will replace that $550 million. And then 3 years from now, they will get a bigger national deal than they have now. But the math you have to do is national plus local is what it used to be in baseball. So you have to keep using all of the local deals, add it up with the national deal, and see if that number is bigger than what exists today. And if it is, then it's a good deal.
You mentioned math, and I was kind of doing those numbers in my head over the last 6-12 months. I don't know. I don't see how, like, if baseball takes it over, and everybody talked about a unified streaming package, right? Like, that's the way it's going, and baseball will have all teams available under one service, and maybe you do it a la carte. You do the American League or the AL West or my team or all of baseball. I'm doing the math and realizing subscription costs are going to have to be through the roof, or they're going to need so many subscribers, paying subscribers to the service. I don't see how it's feasible that they make what they used to make even a couple years ago off TV stuff. If baseball takes this over like Manfred has talked about, can they do it?
So your question is so perfect, because the question is, when do they approach the revenue that existed from all the local deals if they do it national? Can they replace it? It's the same math equation I just went over with you. And if so, how quickly? And the funny part is no one has the actual answer to that.
I don't even think if it doesn't feel close, though. Like it's not even.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not. Gap. And if you hear owners talk, and they do this in the NBA too, this is my favorite. They do a press release and they say, now our games are available to 6.2 million people. We've got the biggest reach ever, which is code word for we didn't get paid enough to make it only available to a small number of exclusive people the way it used to be on cable. Now we've opened it up, quote unquote, over the air. Congratulations, you all get to see it. And my view is, as a team president, former team president, I don't care. I need to make sure we've got the revenue that's coming from TV in order to maintain the players I've signed to a long-term deal. And so the big issue right now is, do you take the chance to tie yourself up with high payrolls? And this is an MLB issue, because in the NBA and NFL, there's a salary cap. That's based on a percentage of revenue. If revenue goes down, so does cap. In baseball, there's no such thing. So you could have revenue going down, but player salaries going up. And that's exactly how you lead to an industry without profit. And that's a problem for baseball.
You know, I really do feel like streaming is the future. It works if teams do streaming packages, but the baseball model and the whole thing under one roof. And to your point, there's some teams out there, the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Cubs. If you own your own sports network, you don't want to be part of this new thing that all the other small markets are doing. So I think it's kind of a disaster waiting down the road. I also think the potential, and I'll say likely, work stoppage of following the 2026 season, it's almost a given that we're going to have a lockout. Is it really the salary cap / floor that's the backbone of this? And is this what's going to probably stop baseball? I mean, last time around, they figured it out in the 11th hour. Are we going to actually have baseball games that don't get played following 26?
I think there will be a lockout in December of 26, and I think it is likely that you will have a delay to the season the way you did just a couple of years ago with the last CBA, managed to get the 162-game schedule in by moving the season back a week. I think it's going to be more than a week this time, and I think you're going to have fewer games because there's a real problem right now in that the owners do not have a united front. Because you brought up why, but I want to clarify something. The Dodgers don't own their own network. They've got an amazing regional deal, a local deal, but it's not with a group that can go bankrupt. It's with big Comcast. So they are in no danger of losing their $300 million a year TV package.
Right.
The Yankees, the Cubs, the Red Sox, the Mets, they own their own networks, but those networks used to be cash cows for the teams. They used to be able to hide money by having such profit within those networks because they were getting so much money from the cable companies. But that has changed. Those networks are not worth as much, which is why baseball believes they can get everybody together and pool the rights other than the Dodgers, believe it or not, because the Dodgers are in a deal that is not going anywhere anytime soon. And so how do you get all teams together and feel as though the sum will be greater than the parts?
Yeah, it's interesting. We're in for quite some twists and turns, and whether it's teams where they're at or how you're going to watch games, I mean, there's some important things to shake out here in the next handful of years. Your show, I'll call it a show. I mean, it's on YouTube, but it's a show, nothing personal. I also feel like you're very personable. So, David, thank you very much for the time.
Oh, I appreciate it. It's fun. And we'll do a home and home. My audience would love to see you. You have done such great mitzvahs in terms of educating people about what's going on in the market. There's such mystery around what we do and what happens in baseball front offices and everywhere. And you take that mystery away, and that's hugely important.